After his white moonlight fell from the building, my stepbrother hated me for 10 years, even after I obtained him completely through despicable means. He never truly forgave me, until I stormed off abroad and got caught in a riot, yet without hesitation, my brother shielded me and was fatally shot. His last words in my arms were, "I spoiled you too much, I regret ever becoming your brother. The whole world calls me a madman." I was the one who destroyed my brother, a man of unwavering integrity and noble character. Thus, I knelt upon those endless steps for 50 years, begging for one more chance to set things right. This time, I'll let my brother have his way. All I ask is for his lifelong peace and happiness. 1. Ji Xingyao. How can you even stomach reading what you've written? You actually harbor such feelings for your own brother. A nostalgic voice whispered in my ear. When I opened my eyes, I saw Ji Zhao clutching my diary, his face flushed crimson with rage. Those pages were filled with my secret thoughts about Ji Zhao, desires, yet I felt no shame at being exposed. Instead, I burst into tears of relief. I had truly been reborn at the moment of my first argument with Ji Zhao, when he discovered my ulterior motives toward him. The sight of my brother, alive and well, sent uncontrollable tremors through my body. Thank God, he's alive. Ji Zhao noticed something was off about me. The burning anger inside me instantly cooled by half. He pointed at the ground. Take all these, and burn them. In my past life, after hearing those words, I completely lost control. Grabbing his collar and kissing him fiercely, Ji Zhao fled in wide-eyed horror, gradually distancing himself from me. That blasphemous kiss shattered all restraints, unleashing my obsessions. My hatred for Lin Shiyun, who stole my brother, grew fiercer. Thus began the chain of tragedies that followed. So this time, I wiped the tears from my face with force, picked up the box filled with diaries. Alright, I'll burn them. 2. My diary holds over a decade of memories with Ji Zhao. My mother and Ji Zhao's mom were inseparable best friends, but my mom was a hopeless romantic who married an abusive man. When I was 5, my mother passed away despite emergency treatment. My father was a chronic alcoholic. He died falling into a ditch on his way to turn himself in. Aunt Ji took me in. Then she passed away when Ji Zhao and I had just started middle school. From then on, only Ji Zhao, a handful of servants, and I remained in that enormous villa. Actually, Ji Zhao is only a few months older than me, but I was always getting into trouble while Ji Zhao acted like a little adult, so since childhood, he'd been cleaning up my messes. Aunt Ji was always busy with work, even live-in maids need days off sometimes. When I had gastroenteritis, Ji Zhao stayed up all night keeping me company during my 4-drip. Whenever I got into fights, he'd always have my back. During thunderstorms, he'd bring his pillow and blanket to huddle with me in my bed. Lin Shiyun even fell to her death because of me. Ji Zhao loathes me to the core, yet when the riot broke out, he shielded me without hesitation. My brother is perfect in every way, but his love for me was purely familial. My love for him carried the weight of guilt in their past life. When Aunt Wu heard of Ji Zhao's death, she wept uncontrollably. Uncle Zhang even pointed at my nose and berated me. Ji Xingyao, you're a complete lunatic, born under a cursed star. Aren't you satisfied until you've destroyed everyone around you? I remembered Ji Zhao's final words to me. I spoiled you rotten. I regret ever becoming your brother. He regrets it now. Truth be told, I regret it too. The temple in the northern part of town is said to work miracles. I pray that in our next life, Ji Zhao never crosses paths with me again. Perhaps it's because of all the evil I've done. The abbot refuses to see me, so I kneel year after year. The bloodstains on the steps are from every time I've kowtowed, from raven locks to silver hair. At last, in the twilight of my years, the abbot finally agreed to see me. He said, "What's done cannot be undone, but rebirth may still come. You're his destined calamity, without resolution. All efforts are in vain." Then a brocade pouch was pressed into my trembling hand. It shall guide you to the hour of rebirth. Waking again with the embroidered pouch clutched in my hand, I knew none of this was a dream. In this lifetime, I won't repeat the same mistakes. I'd pay any price for my brother's safety and happiness. 3. When we went to school the next day, neither of us mentioned what happened that night. An oppressive silence filled the car. Ji Zhao finally broke the silence as they stepped out. "You got Lin Shiyun injured the other day. Go apologize to her today." His tone was clipped. He seemed to anticipate I'd make a scene with him before even saying it, yet I just gave a faint nod. Alright. Ji Zhao looked at me with surprise, but in the end, nothing was said. During lunch break, as promised, I went to find Lin Shiyun to apologize. After searching around, I found her with Ji Zhao. The lively afternoon was bathed in warm sunlight. The girl giggled and playfully punched the boy's chest. The next second, she caught sight of me out of the corner of her eye and immediately hid behind Jizhao in fright, clutching her bandaged hand. Jizhao instinctively shielded her. "What are you doing here?" A somewhat distant remark. I'd completely forgotten about being told to come apologize this morning. Can't really blame my brother for being nervous. I'll admit, I'm downright crazy. I have this overwhelming possessiveness toward Jizhao. He's handsome and incredibly kind. Plenty of girls had a crush on him. I drove every single one away. Reading Jizhao's silent approval, I grew increasingly convinced. I still hold a place in his heart, like in a past life. I slipped something into his drink, forcing him to cross the line. He resisted my touch, yet I could still sense pleasure in his fragmented murmurs, yet they overlooked that it was merely an uncontrollable physiological response. Lin Shiyun was special to him, even a decade after her death. Jizhao still hadn't forgiven me. I suppressed the overwhelming bitterness in my heart and let out a slow breath. He gave Lin Shiyun a deep bow. "I'm sorry for causing you harm the other day, and for publicly humiliating you. Could you forgive me?" Lin Shiyun glanced cautiously at Jizhao, and only spoke after seeing his silence. "It's all right, don't worry about it, I forgive you." I looked up and met Jizhao's gaze. His eyes held emotions I couldn't decipher. In my past life. There was another reason I disliked Lin Shiyun. I've seen her hanging around with Zhang Henian, the school bully, more than once. Zhang Henian is my brother's sworn enemy. He's got a nasty personality and loves making trouble for my brother. I strongly suspect Lin Shiyun was sent to play with my brother's emotions, so I've been giving her a hard time, no matter what the truth is this time. I have to get to the bottom of it, to bring the two who missed each other in their past life back on track. So I started pestering Lin Shiyun, saying I felt guilty and wanted to be friends with her. At first, she was still somewhat wary. Only after realizing I meant no harm did they let their guard down. I casually probed, "So, what do you think of my brother?" A blush crept up Lin Shiyun's ears. "Jizhao, he's helped me a lot. He adores animals too, always feeding the neighborhood cats and even getting them neutered. I think he's genuinely kind." Just as I thought, they're deeply in love with each other. Lin Shiyun is truly exceptional. She came from a modest background but was remarkably driven, funding her education through scholarships, the classic resilient rose growing through concrete. My brother's handsome, ranked top in his class, and inherited a fortune from Aunt G. Anyone would say they're a perfect match. Even though I'd known it all along, my heart still ached with bitter jealousy. That evening, Jizhao knocked on my door for the first time in ages. He didn't dare come in. Last time he barged into my room unannounced. He discovered my shameful secret. I spoke up first. I was just looking at potential schools to apply to, nothing else. Ever since my rebirth, I could sense Jizhao still keeping his distance from me, even without that kiss. He could never accept the girl he raised like a sister having feelings for him, and even without that kiss, I still couldn't let go of Jizhao. He cleared his throat awkwardly. "Why haven't you been walking home with me lately?" I was surprised. That wasn't what I expected him to ask. "Because I need to get used to life without you," I whispered to myself silently. Even today, I was looking for a school far from Jijiaoyuan. Anyway, both he and Lin Shiyun have excellent grades. They'll definitely end up at the same school. As for me, the farther away from him, the better. I made up a flimsy excuse on the spot. Shiyun and I get along pretty well, so we decided to walk home together and chat. Even I didn't quite believe my own words. Jizhao stared at me unblinkingly, making my skin crawl. I asked defiantly, "Am I interrupting something?" He frowned and flicked my forehead. "What nonsense are you thinking?" "Nothing like that's happening." He ran a slightly irritated hand through his hair. "Fine, maybe it's good for you to make more friends." 5. That day, I walked home with Lin Shiyun as usual. She'd opened up to me considerably, and I wanted to uncover the truth behind her fatal fall in our previous life. Everyone believes I was the one who pushed her off the building. Even Jizhao thinks so, given my long rap sheet, but I didn't. I didn't even get to touch the hem of her garment. She just jumped down while crying all by herself. I wondered if something had happened in Lin Shiyun's family that drove her to suicidal thoughts. "Shiyun, whatever's troubling you, you must tell me. Share your difficulties with me, I'll help you solve them." Lin Shiyun froze for a moment before her eyes welled up with tears. She's clearly hiding something. Just as she was about to speak, a gang of hoodlums suddenly emerged from the alley. The intruders meant trouble. Wielding metal rods ripped from classroom desks, my childhood self-defense training barely kept me in the fight against them. Lin Shiyun wasn't faring nearly as well. Seeing the rod about to strike her, I instinctively threw myself in front of her. Then everything went black. When I came to, a searing pain shot from the back of my head down my spine, covered in mud. I barely had time to process the shocking scene before me. Lin Shiyun lay naked beside me. Hey, Lin Shiyun, what's wrong with you? My voice trembled as I scrambled for the phone nearby without thinking. All I wanted was to reach my brother as quickly as possible, but the phone was shattered, completely unresponsive. A blinding light suddenly flashed across my face. Instinctively, I lowered my head and squinted. Police sirens wailed amidst Ji Zhao's furious shouts. I felt a forceful shove that sent me stumbling onto the nearby steps. Ji Xingyao, I really thought you'd changed for the better. Turns out you were just biding your time to pull this stunt today. Ji Zhao's eyes burned crimson with fury. I stared at him blankly, the realization dawning on me belatedly. He'd misunderstood everything. Bro, no, it wasn't me. Ji Zhao lifted Lin Shiyun into his arms. You're holding the phone and still denying it. Delete those photos right now. You're in big trouble when we get home. I stood frozen, watching his retreating figure until my vision blurred with tears. It really wasn't me. At last, all strength drained from my body as darkness swallowed my vision once more. 6. I dreamed that in my past life, Ji Zhao had been this furious with me before. When Lin Shiyun fell from the building and I was taken in for questioning, it was the first time Ji Zhao ever hit me, a resounding slap across the face. How could you do such a thing? I'm deeply disappointed in you. I wish I'd never had a sister like you. His eyes held a grief so profound it had turned eerily calm. Can't blame him. After all, there were only two of us on the rooftop that day, me and Lin Shiyun. No one would believe that a promising female student on the verge of graduation would jump off a building without reason. Yet even though Ji Zhao didn't believe me, he still secured the best lawyer for me. There were no surveillance cameras on the rooftop, no direct evidence proving I pushed Lin Shiyun. Besides, there were no traces of my fingerprints on her body. However, there's still the possibility that I incited Lin Shiyun to jump. In the end, the incident was ruled as an accident. Ji Zhao paid a substantial compensation to Lin Shiyun's mother, yet she kept causing scenes at school every single day, so Ji Zhao took the initiative to withdraw me from school. I truly ruined his life. What a brilliant future he could have had without me, no matter how the outside world speculates about this matter. To Ji Zhao, it was his own sister who caused the death of the person he loved. From that day onward, there was no going back. I jolted awake from my sleep. My familiar bedroom came into view. Ji Zhao kept vigil by my bedside, his face haggard with dark circles under his eyes. Seeing me awake, a glimmer of light sparked in his eyes. Then he pulled me into a tight embrace. 7. Turns out Lin Shiyun woke up before me. She explained everything that had happened. I got knocked out trying to protect her. Those punks took photos of her and fled the scene. Ji Zhao held me tight, his body trembling uncontrollably. He kept murmuring apologies over and over. I'm sorry, Yao Yao. I'm so sorry. It was my fault for blaming you. It's my fault for not taking better care of you, and for blaming you without even hearing your side. You should just hit me already. His body trembled visibly against mine, the warmth radiating between us making my eyes grow hot with unshed tears. All the pent-up grievances of these past days came flooding out. I smeared tears and snot all over Ji Zhao's clothes. Bro, it's all my fault. If I hadn't been such a jerk before, you wouldn't distrust me now. I shook my head desperately, hoping Ji Zhao would believe my promise. I was really wrong. I'll never bother you or make things difficult for you again. I'll stop longing for you romantically. I just want to be your sister, forever and always. I felt my brother's body momentarily tense up. Then, his hand gently patted my back. We stayed like that, holding each other for what felt like an eternity. All that previous awkwardness between us simply melted away. Ji Zhao brought over the porridge that was sitting nearby. Let's get some food and you first. He tied up my hair and grabbed my coat. I'm going out to get your favorite egg tarts to make it up to you. Wait for me to come back. I've got something important to tell you. I obediently watched Ji Zhao, sensing something subtly different about him. As if he'd steeled himself for some decisive action. I waited so long, but Big Brother never came back. Instead, I got a message from Lin Shiyun first. Yao Yao, please, meet me on the school rooftop. You must come alone. Please, I'm begging you. 8. I dashed out of the house like a madman. Why did this still happen? The abbot's words kept echoing in my mind. What's done cannot be undone, so I can't change anything after all. Then what's the point of my rebirth? But Lin Shiyun's message to me is different from the previous life. In my past life, she sent me a taunting message, lying that she was having a secret rendezvous with Ji Zhao on the school rooftop. But this time is different. I can almost touch the truth. On the rooftop, Lin Shiyun wept just as she had in her past life. Lin Shiyun, what the hell is wrong with you? Is jumping off this building really the only option? Lin Xian looked at me and collapsed to her knees with a thud. Yao yao. There's no escape for me. The men who attacked us that day worked for Zhang Henian. They took compromising photos and videos of me. I've been trapped for a long time. My blood boiled with rage. If you knew all along, why didn't you tell the police? You're the victim here. None of this is your fault. Lin Xian let out a piercing scream, teetering on the edge of complete breakdown. It's no use, Ji Xingyao. I've tried fighting back. It's pointless. They're threatening my mother and siblings. Zhang Henian's family connections run deep. We don't stand a chance against him. He's a monster who's been toying with us all along. He wants to destroy Ji Zhao, and that's why he's targeting you first. I don't deserve your kindness. You and your brother have been nothing but good to me. Stay away from me. As long as you don't touch me, there won't be any evidence linking you to me. Ji Zhao cares for you so deeply, he'll move heaven and earth to protect you. But if I disobey Zhang Henian, my family won't survive. My death might at least bring this injustice to light. I'm begging you, just look after my family when I'm gone. Do it for the friendship we've shared these past few months. I didn't even let her finish before grabbing her by the collar and yanking her down. The only sound left echoing was my own furious roar. Do you have any idea what your death would do to my brother? He spent his whole life pining after you. Only then did I realize my face was streaked with uncontrollable tears. Lin Xian stared at me in stunned silence. The embroidered pouch slipped from my pocket with a soft thud. It lay quietly on the ground, and I faintly remembered the warmth that had radiated through my palm when I first held it. Since I'm the calamity in Ji Zhao's fate, then without me, he'd be happy, wouldn't he? So that's what it meant. Now I finally understand. So, all we need is to make a big scene, right? I turned and sprinted toward the platform's edge. At first, there was this weightless floating sensation. Then came the crushing pull of gravity. I chose the abyss. Thus I fell into the abyss. A deafening bang echoed, followed by a blood-curdling scream, shattering what should have been a peaceful night, across the street from campus. Ji Zhao nearly dropped what he was holding when the sudden explosion shook him. These were the last egg tarts left. The shop he originally planned to visit was closed. After checking several places, he finally discovered this newly opened spot near the school. The crowd around gradually grew noisy. Someone's dead. A student jumped. Female. Ji Zhao turned her head toward the school, suddenly recalling that deafening noise. My heart gave a sharp twinge of pain. 9. Ji Zhao found himself inexplicably drawn toward the school. He'd never been one to chase after excitement, but that day, a voice inside him seemed to whisper, "You should go take a look." He spotted Lin Xian. She was sobbing on the floor, calling out Ji Xingyao's name between tears. Why would she be calling Ji Xingyao's name? Panic surged through Ji Zhao as his hands moved uncontrollably, frantically pushing through the crowd, the figure lying on the ground. There was no way he wouldn't recognize her. No matter how she changed, he'd know her at a glance. His sister should be lying in her room right now, waiting for him to bring home egg tarts. This shouldn't be. She shouldn't be lying on the ground in pieces like this. Lin Xian confessed everything. She wept, saying it was her fault that Ji Xingyao died. When I got hurt before, I framed her on purpose. That day she came to me furious, and I deliberately placed the cup near her. After she accidentally knocked it over, I pretended she pushed me and cut my arm. She actually believed it, even apologized to me. And yet, she was the only one who ever treated me as a friend. Ji Zhao stared at her blankly, taking a long moment before finding his voice again. Did she say anything at the end? She said, "If I die, you'll remember me for the rest of your life." Ji Zhao felt like someone was choking him, cutting off his very breath. At last, he realized the one who killed his sister was none other than himself. Ji Zhao still vividly remembered the day he told Jixin Jiao to burn the diaries. She stood in the courtyard, tears streaming down her face as she burned them. His heart ached with a sharp pang. He asked Nanny Wu to call Jixin Jiao back inside, yet his feet carried him uncontrollably toward the pile of ashes. One book remained unburned. He stamped out the flames. Those elegant characters inside were ones he'd patiently taught stroke by stroke. Would my brother think I'm disgusting if he knew I love him? At that moment, nothing seemed to matter anymore. She didn't deserve the blame. He had no right whatsoever to blame Ji Xingyao. In this world, no matter what mistakes Ji Xingyao makes, his sins are always magnified. He's just too afraid to take that step. If one day Ji Xingyao stops loving him, she had seen a better and broader world. When other men made her realize her brother was actually insignificant, they couldn't even remain siblings anymore. That single step he took would lead him to eternal damnation. That night, he even had a twisted thought. He almost wished he shared blood ties with Ji Xingyao. at least then there'd be an indelible bond between them. He was utterly terrified when he realized Ji Xingyao despised Lin Shiyun. For the first time, he didn't distance himself from someone his sister disliked. He thought it'd be best to make Ji Xingyao give up. She would grow up someday, and leave him eventually. The moment Ji Xingyao finally woke after days in a coma, sobbing apologies, and calling herself a wretched fool, all he wanted to say was, he was the real bastard, 1,000 times worse than she could ever be. Worse still, he was a coward through and through. Ji Xingyao was left alone to bear the weight of their shared sin. Ji Zhao finally understood. He would go speak to Ji Xingyao. At worst, we'll disappear to someplace where no one knows us. But that moment of hesitation cost him his sister forever. By the time Ji Zhao came to his senses, he had already made all the funeral arrangements for Jix and Jao. That small urn now held the remains of the person he loved most. She used to be so full of life and energy. How can anyone stand being cooped up in such a cramped space? My senses came flooding back belatedly. Countless blades seemed to sprout from my internal organs. He retched violently, his body convulsing. The razor blade sliced through his esophagus and throat, yet in the end, nothing came up. He could only spend his days confined to Ji Xingyao's room, the last place on earth that still carried her scent. Time had lost all meaning. His life had effectively ended the day his sister died. Just a wall away, Uncle Zhang and Aunt Wu were consumed with anxiety. We've consulted so many therapists, but nothing helps. This looks like a case of lost soul. They say the temple north of town works miracles. 10. I never thought I'd wake up again, in the dimly lit rental room. There lay an admission letter. The name written there was Ji Xingyao. I actually reincarnated into a body with the exact same name. This Ji Xingyao didn't look much like me. She was an orphan who grew up without parents. Social interactions are almost non-existent in their simplicity. It feels like some glitch in the world's programming. This place might as well be on another planet compared to where I used to live. Suddenly, everything I'd ever hoped for seemed to fall into place. My heart remained unsettled for the longest time. The brocade pouch still lay quietly in my palm, only now, the lingering warmth within seemed to have faded. It was just an ordinary piece of cloth now. I've decided to live on as Ji Xingyao. Seasons came and went in their endless cycle. 3 years passed in the blink of an eye. During that time, I'd occasionally search for news about Ji Zhao. My fall from the building caused quite a scandal back then. Even the media swarmed in to cover the story. Zhang Henian and his entire corrupt network were brought down. Lin Xian seems to have come out unscathed. This is actually for the best. Everything's back on track. I guess it's time I let go. At first, life without my brother was really tough. My packed schedule left no room for overthinking. Before I knew it, it became second nature. Ji Zhao turns me into a complete airhead. The moment he's gone, my brain cells come marching back. So I decided to get myself a boyfriend. Maybe a relationship would finally free me from Ji Zhao completely, not just physically. I need to break free emotionally too. I can't possibly watch over my brother forever. Besides, as far as he's concerned, I'm already dead to him. 11. Lu Ming is my classmate. He's got good looks and a great personality, but I've truly given it my all, only to find it's just not working. Still not working. I simply can't accept anyone but Ji Zhao. I'm starting to doubt if I'm even straight, more like Ji Zhao sexual. That night, I went drinking with Lu Ming to clear the air, ended up with him getting wasted and spilling all his secrets. I need to come clean with you. The truth is I have feelings for my brother. No one could understand the redemptive relief when those words finally came out. Lu Ming kept drinking between sobs and bouts of vomiting. I thought you were really attractive and had a unique personality. Wanted to give it a shot to see if you could turn me straight. Tried it and realized it's just not happening. It's just not possible. I just love my brother. And I'll never love anyone else my whole life. Those were exactly my lines. Because of this special connection, Lu Ming and I became best friends. He was torn about whether to address the unspoken tension between him and his brother. My advice is, don't. One wrong move, and you might end up brotherless in the wilderness, just like me. Lu Ming was scared too. So he never dared to speak up all through college, still working hard to find a way to fix himself. I doubt it'll work. That day, he sidled up to me again. Hey, did you hear about the 2 exchange students in our department? There's a welcome party tonight. Rumor has it they're real lookers. Come on, let's go. The moment we entered the private booth at the bar, an inexplicable sense of foreboding washed over me. The class monitor from next door whispered conspiratorially to us. This exchange student is quite the big shot. Started his own business right after entering college. Word is he went all out. and now he's worth over 100 million. Rumor has it he's here to discuss some project with our school. Sweet, let's hitch a ride on his coattails then, Lu Ming muttered disdainfully beside me. Big deal. My brother was managing our family business during college too. I couldn't be bothered with him. My heart was pounding violently, just as we took our seats. A towering figure walked in. The streamers prepared by the class monitor burst open with a pop. I looked up to see. Her blood ran cold in an instant. Across from her, the man's features gradually came into focus under the light. He wore a heavy black overcoat that seemed cut from the night itself, shielding him from all external emotions. A conspicuous earring adorned his left earlobe. Upon closer inspection, it revealed itself to be shaped like a star. Jizhao, 12, how could it be Jizhao? My vision swam with dizziness. The class monitor pulled the ribbon and announced enthusiastically, "Welcome, classmates Ji Zhao and Lin Shiyun." Only then did I notice Lin Shiyun trailing behind Ji Zhao, looking listless. Everyone began speculating. They really are quite the attractive pair. Do you think they might be dating? Lu Ming nudged me and whispered, but honestly, he's still not as handsome as my brother. I immediately shot him a glare. Bullshit, obviously, my brother's way better looking. Lu Ming looked baffled when I suddenly snapped at him. Did you wake up on the wrong side of the bed? I clamped my hand over his mouth, trying to make myself as inconspicuous as possible, though initially, this body looked quite different from my original one. Yet after 3 years, the resemblance only grows stronger. Thank goodness I wore a mask when I came today. Ji Zhao barely glanced at me when entering, then completely ignored this direction. Definitely didn't recognize me. The classmates suggested playing truth or dare together. Ji Zhao was already strikingly handsome, and being today's main character made him even more noticeable. All eyes were on him, just like Lu Ming. They were all burning with curiosity about that question. Someone finally seized the chance to ask Ji Zhao a question. Do you have a girlfriend? 13, I do. Ji Zhao's calm response dashed many hopes in the room, yet some still refused to give up. The next round of questioning began. Is your girlfriend in this room? All eyes were fixed intently on Ji Zhao. My heart involuntarily skipped a beat. Ji Zhao raised his eyes. Or was it just my imagination? His gaze seemed to flicker in this direction. Here, that completely dashed everyone's last hope. Ji Zhao just arrived with his girlfriend still present. That's none other than Lin Shiyun. Alright, I admit, even knowing the answer, I still feel a pang of sadness. Looking back, maybe dying back then would have been for the best. If I had to stay by Ji Zhao's side, watching him get married and start a family, I'd probably lose my mind too. The second half felt rather dull. A guy sitting next to Ji Zhao suddenly perked up, pointing at his earring like he'd spotted something fascinating. Your earring is so unique. Looks like it's filled with flowing sand. A hint of expression finally surfaced on Ji Zhao's face. He touched the star-shaped earring on his earlobe, a tender smile curling at the corner of his lips. Yes, these are my sister's ashes. Everyone suddenly fell silent. The class monitor sobered up instantly and quickly changed the subject. But some drunkard, completely oblivious to the awkward atmosphere, blurted out, so why stars? Is there some special meaning behind them? This time, I truly felt it. Ji Zhao's gaze rested upon me. That's because, her name is Ji Xingyao, 14, my back is drenched in sweat. All my classmates turned to look at me. What a coincidence. We've got a Ji Xingyao in our class too. That's serendipity. It's such an uncommon name. Xingyao, why are you still wearing a mask today? My heart was pounding so hard it felt like it might leap out of my throat. Ji Zhao stared straight at me. Determined not to miss the slightest change in my expression, I faked a cough and deliberately lowered my voice. Oh, haha, what a coincidence. I grew up in an orphanage myself, always wanted to have an older brother, got hit by hay fever today. Does Ji Zhao's younger sister get pollen allergies too? Lu Ming gave me a puzzled look. Since when do you have pollen allergies? How come I didn't know? I want to rip his mouth off. No. Ji Zhao kept staring. But the flickering light in the room made it impossible to read the emotions in his eyes. But she's an exceptional liar. I was sweating bullets. Thankfully, no one pressed the issue further. Even after getting back, I still felt shaken. I could tell Ji Zhao had taken notice of me because of that name. For the next few days, I kept avoiding him and Lin Shiyun while maintaining my pollen allergy act. The mask felt permanently fused to my face. Exchange students' daily routines were quite different from ours. Ji Zhao had already moved on with his life. Soon enough, he'd forget all about me, the girl who just happened to share his sister's name. That's what I originally thought, but things didn't go as planned. 15. Ji Zhao keeps haunting me, though technically speaking, I'm the actual ghost here. Went to the cafeteria for a meal, and there he was sitting at the table across from me. Went to grab a coffee. And he casually bought 2 cups right next to me, so annoying, no need to ask. The other cup was definitely for Lin Shiyun. Finally had a day without running into him, so I asked Lu Ming to meet at the cafe across from campus, ready to treat ourselves. The food had just been served when Ji Zhao walked in. Lu Ming was wolfing down his meal across from me. He barely glanced my way before noticing I hadn't touched my food. "Why aren't you eating? You go ahead," he gave a shit-eating grin. "Then I'll help myself." Then proceeded to swipe all the omelette rice and strawberry parfait in front of me. A tall figure came to stand beside us. A fresh parfait and several piping hot egg tarts were placed before me. "Eat up." I looked up at Ji Zhao, feeling a sudden lump in my throat. Finally, I steeled myself. She looped her arm through Lu Ming's. "Thanks, but if I want some, my boyfriend will buy it for me." The air froze for a split second. Lu Ming looked up from his meal, though a bit confused. She proved why best friends are the real MVPs. In a flash, he read my mind and pulled me into a protective side hug. Summoning his most stereotypically macho voice, he told Ji Zhao, "Handsome, my girl's on a diet, not happening." Me, Ji Zhao, alright. I believe he did his best. Without another word, Ji Zhao turned and walked out of the shop. I stared blankly at the parfait and egg tarts on the table long after his figure vanished around the street corner. Lu Ming's expression darkened as he sensed something amiss. "Has he been harassing you?" I shook my head, at a loss for how to even begin explaining such matters. "Drop it. Pretend to be my boyfriend for a while." 16, Lu Ming became wary and started accompanying me to and from school every day. Because of this incident, he didn't think too highly of Ji Zhao, but after that day, Ji Zhao seemed to vanish from my life without a trace. I suppose he finally figured things out. I'm not his sister. His real sister would never bear to see him hurt. That evening, Lu Ming came scurrying over with a sneaky grin. "I've got some juicy gossip. Remember that other exchange student who came with Ji Zhao recently?" I nodded. "You mean Lin Shiyun?" "Yeah, that's her. The confession wall's been roasting her all morning. Apparently she's two-timing, playing both sides. She just got here and already hooked up with multiple guys. Serves that Ji Zhao right for harassing you. Karma's biting him back through his own girlfriend." I shot up from my chair with a sudden whoosh, startling Lu Ming. "Say that again." I said Lin Shiyun cheated on Ji Zhao. Everything after that became white noise. Before I knew it, I was already running out the door. "She has class this afternoon." The sky darkened ominously, as if a storm was brewing. When I reached their classroom, everyone had already left, only Lin Shiyun remained. Her body froze the moment she saw me. I removed my face mask, revealing a face that already bore 50% resemblance to mine. Lin Shiyun's pupils contracted, her body trembling involuntarily. "What are you afraid of?" Step by step I advanced, forcing Lin Shiyun into retreat, beads of cold sweat forming on her forehead, until I had her cornered against the wall, gripping her collar. "Didn't he treat you right? Didn't you get what you wanted?" Lin Shiyun's eyes were wide with terror as she shook her head desperately. "Now you're scared. Don't think I'll let you off even if I become a ghost. Why did you do this to him? Answer me." Suddenly, I saw the truth reflected in Lin Shiyun's tear-filled eyes. Her gaze seemed to go right through me. Then, with trembling hands, she pointed behind me. A thunderbolt split the sky. I whirled around, a fleeting glimmer of light, yet enough to reveal Ji Zhao's face. 16, this should do the trick, right? Lin Shiyun wrenched free from my weakened grasp and practically scrambled out the door in a frantic rush. It hit me all at once. I'd been had. My heart skipped a beat, then began pounding so violently it felt like it might burst from my chest. Bro, instinctively wanted to cover my mouth. But now, whether I call him brother or not makes no difference anymore. He'd recognized me long ago. Ji Zhao walked straight toward me. Useless. 2 lifetimes, 2 bodies, yet not a drop of blood relation to Ji Zhao. Yet I'm completely dominated by his bloodline. Only today did I realize how hard it is to just turn tail and run. Ji Zhao must be furious, mad that I'm alive and right under his nose, yet refusing to acknowledge him. You always bite your nails when you're angry. That time you thought I bought the second coffee for Lin Shiyun and ended up biting your mask in rage, priceless. You always play with your hair when lying. You twisted your hair 3 times when claiming Lu Ming was your boyfriend. Thunder makes you scrunch up your nose in fear, just like you did now. Yao Yao, how could you ever think I wouldn't recognize you? Fine, I'm being an idiot. Before I could even utter I was wrong, Ji Zhao suddenly burst into laughter. It was a chilling laugh. That laugh gives me the creeps. Do you hate me, big bro? Do you despise me, brother? Why are you pretending not to know me? How can I ever earn your forgiveness? The barrage of questions left me utterly disoriented. Yet Ji Zhao's voice remained perfectly calm, so calm it sounded like he was discussing someone else's affairs, yet his eyes burned with a terrifying madness that chilled the soul. I retreated step by step until the cold glass pressed against my back. No escape remained. Ji Zhao offered what might have passed for a gentle smile. Would you prefer me on my knees, or would you rather beat me up, make it hurt, or should we do something you'd enjoy more? How about that new collar you bought? You know your big brother can't refuse you anything. I'm better than those other men, more what you really want. No one in this world could ever be closer than we are. A look of abject pleading crossed Ji Zhao's face. I've never cared for anyone else. You're the only one I love, so please, don't throw me away again. At that moment, only one thought flashed through my mind. Ji Zhao, has he gone mad? He was supposed to be the aloof moon in the sky, a deity seated high upon the sacred altar. Why would you say something like that? My brain couldn't process it fast enough, yet I still sensed something off about his words. Collar. Wait, when did I ever buy a collar? All I have is, my mind exploded like a bomb went off inside. Every coherent thought was blown to pieces. I stared at Ji Zhao in horror. In my past life, I once bought a collar, but never got to use it. Before my brother died, before our last argument, Ji Zhao suddenly gripped my throat, silencing my unfinished words with his lips. It was a kiss both lingering and fierce, as if trying to devour everything, yet handling with utmost care. The rain pattered softly. It suddenly dawned on me. So that's how it is. I'm not the only one standing in the rain, enduring the damp and mud. Ji Zhao is just as tainted as I am. 17. A slender shard of light crept through the window. I woke up feeling something heavy on me. Opening my eyes, I saw Ji Zhao's face looming close. A glance at my phone showed 9 o'clock. I sprang out of bed. The commotion was loud enough to wake Ji Zhao. He lazily cracked his eyes open, hooking an arm around me to drag me back from the edge of the bed and pin me down. Sleep a little longer. My face flushed when I noticed the ring of teeth marks still visible on his arm. I have class. The moment Ji Zhao loosened his grip, I bolted into the bathroom. I could still hear his sigh behind me. Never knew you were this studious before. In the restroom, I stared at the mottled marks on my skin. Guess I'll need to bundle up later. At least it's still early spring, or people might think I've lost my mind. I certainly didn't hold back either. Ji Zhao's back probably didn't fare much better. By the time I dawdled out of the bathroom, Ji Zhao had already freshened up and was fully dressed outside. The flush on my face hadn't completely faded yet, leaving me feeling rather awkward. You're going too, but don't you have no classes today? Ji Zhao was putting on his shoes when he glanced at me. I'm surprised you memorized my class schedule so well. I guiltily rubbed my nose. After all, I'd only memorized his class schedule so thoroughly to avoid him in the first place. The early spring morning was bitingly cold. I suddenly felt dizzy, as if time had lost all meaning. Ji Zhao was fine, and so was I. We could still go to school together, as if time had stood still. I pressed close to Ji Zhao, and he simply wrapped me inside his overcoat. Hee. It's been so long since I went to school with my big brother. A faint smile played on Ji Zhao's lips, though his voice sounded subdued. Ugh. I feel like my brother's turned into a bitter gourd, though I'm probably the one mostly to blame for this. Last night when I was half asleep from exhaustion, I heard him ask, "What if I wake up and you're gone again?" I hugged my brother around the waist, about to comfort him. A furious roar suddenly erupted from far behind us. Then I was yanked backward by tremendous force. Both Ji Zhao and I froze in shock. Turning around, I saw Lu Ming. He yanked me behind him like a mother hen protecting her chicks, glaring furiously at my brother. Ji Zhao, I'm warning you, stay away from my girlfriend, or you'll regret it. Oh no, I'd completely forgotten about him. Ji Zhao froze momentarily before furrowing his brows in realization. His face was a picture of sheer theatricality, equal parts furious and wronged. Are you trying to drive me to an early grave? I shook my head so hard it was like a rattle drum, flustered as I pushed Lu Ming away and dashed to Ji Zhao's side. Let me introduce you. This is my brother. Lu Ming's eyes widened, his gaze darting frantically between me and Ji Zhao. But your sister isn't. Then gave me a look like they'd seen a ghost. This matter is rather complicated. I'll explain everything to you properly later. Ji Zhao took my hand with a possessive air. Like staking a claim, allow me to introduce myself. I used to be her brother, now I'm her boyfriend, and eventually I'll be her husband. The sheer weight of that statement left Lu Ming frozen in place like a statue. After a long pause, confusion flickered in his eyes, then shock, before finally settling into overwhelming envy. Then he scampered away with an undignified squeal. Ji Zhao massaged his temples. This is the kind of company you keep when I'm away. I wanted to defend Lu Ming's reputation, but couldn't think of any convincing arguments. All I could muster was a lame, actually, he's usually pretty normal. But then I heard my brother scoff, "Oh, so now you're defending other men." The pettiness made my teeth ache. I get it, I used to be like that too. Then I silently mimed zipping my lips. 18. In the days that followed, I spent all my time hanging out with Ji Zhao. He rented a small apartment off campus. "Take me out for a bite whenever you're free." With the apron on, all my favorite dishes magically appear on the table. Gotta admit, his campaign speech that day really had substance. "No other man compares to how perfectly you suit my taste." As for Lin Shiyun, she's already gone back. My fall back then affected her deeply, but Ji Zhao signed the letter of forgiveness. Lin Shiyun missed the college entrance exam that year, but got into a decent university the following year. She texted me with apologies, saying she shouldn't have deceived me back then, but my fatal fall seems to have traumatized her so deeply that she can't bear to face me. Not that it matters, she left me with plenty of emotional scars in our past life too. I explained the whole story to Luming, who found it bizarre but reluctantly accepted it. Then came the endless bitterness. "Oh, that's wonderful. Congratulations to you." When the holiday came, we returned home. Seeing my own grave was quite emotional. My grave stands beside Aunt Ji and Mom. The wind howled past my ears. I asked my brother how he found me. He said he started having severe hallucinations later, often staying in my room where he'd see me approach him, but when he tried to embrace me, he'd snap back to reality holding only my clothes. Uncle Zhang and Aunt Wu thought I couldn't go on like this, so they took me to that temple in the northern part of town. There, I saw our past lives. I listened quietly, my eyes stinging, and buried myself in Ji Zhao's arms. "I'm sorry, brother. I owe you an apology. I was terrified back then, terrified that just by having me around, I'd get you expelled again, and eventually get you killed. In that case, it'd be better if I never existed." Ji Zhao covered my mouth. "But without you, what's the difference between living and dying? Isn't that what you're thinking too?" He soothingly stroked my forehead. "The abbot said you weren't dead, so I kept searching. Just as I thought. My brother's truly kind-hearted, always doing good deeds. He doesn't need to kowtow for 50 years like I do." Then one day at the temple, I met a man named Luchuan who came for dream interpretation. He said his stepbrother kept haunting his dreams at night, doing bizarre things, and asked how to break the cycle. While talking, he showed me his brother's photo. It was a group shot with you standing right beside him. How could I not recognize you? I was utterly stunned. My brother and Luchuan could practically form a victim's alliance. All I ask is for him to live a safe and smooth life. But now that Ji Zhao knows about his past life, then you won't get to see me turn into a little old lady. I sprang up and covered his eyes with my hands. "No way, you got to forget this." Ji Zhao caught my mischievous hand, finally flashing a genuine smile. "I won't forget, but you haven't seen me grow into an old man yet." Tears instantly welled up in my eyes. He gently kissed away my tears, his eyes crinkling with a smile, his voice impossibly tender. "So this time, you'll have to become a little old lady and watch me turn into a grandfather with your own eyes." The end. Story 2. When my wedding with Xiao Lanqing was approaching, her stepsister's husband died. After she returned to the Xia family, she suffered from severe depression. She couldn't leave Xiao Lanqing at any time or place. Even when I was on a business trip, she slept with Xiao Lanqing. When Xiao Lanqing woke up and found out, he frowned slightly, and a trace of impatience flashed in the bottom of his eyes. He thought I would make a scene. Unexpectedly, I just closed the door silently. It was the same in my previous life. I couldn't bear the betrayal and made it known to everyone, ending up in a bad reputation. I was even sent to prison by Xiao Lanqing on the charge of slandering his stepsister's reputation, and finally died from humiliation. I woke up from the nightmare, and now I have a chance to start over. I clenched the offer from the research institute that I once rejected for love and swore not to make the same mistakes again. On the day I left Jing City, Xiao Lanqing panicked. 1. When Xiao Lanqing and Jiang Wan came downstairs after packing their clothes, "I just received the offer from the research institute in Hong Kong City. Tan Shu, I hope you can report on time." After I replied with an okay, I finally let out a sigh of relief. Fortunately, it's still in time this time. I was reborn 3 months after Jiang Wan came back. In my previous life, when I received the offer, I was discussing the wedding with Xiao Lanqing. When he knew that I intended to develop in Hong Kong City, he said, "We're just getting married and you want to be in a long-distance relationship. Shu, you know I can't accept that. If you insist on going, then we'll cancel the wedding." At that time, I was deeply trapped in the love that Xiao Lanqing wove for me and couldn't see the whole picture. I gave up my dream, and later I even lost my life. Shoo, did you hear what I'm saying? Xiao Lanqing's tone suddenly rose. Pulling my wandering thoughts back, his tone was obviously full of dissatisfaction. At this moment, Jiang Wan was hiding behind Xiao Lanqing, as delicate as a flower about to wither, swaying, and her eyes were a little red. It seemed that she had just cried. There was also a thick layer of gauze wrapped around her wrist. It was my birthday last week. Xiao Lanqing originally wanted to accompany me to see the aurora, but it ended with her attempt to commit suicide by cutting her wrist. I said indifferently, "What's the matter?" Xiao Lanqing frowned. Wan's mood has been unstable recently, so I was trying to. Don't get the wrong idea. I was slightly taken aback, feeling a bit surprised. In my previous life, since Jiang Wan came back, Xiao Lanqing rarely took my feelings into account. Even if I mentioned it, he would just hug me in his arms and act coquettishly, saying, "My Shu is the most reasonable person. Don't be angry with Wan, okay? She's ill, so let's give in to her. You surely don't want to be burdened with a life on our conscience after we get married, right?" At that time, Jiang Wan's condition was really extremely bad. She would go crazy at any time, but now, when I think about it carefully, there seems to be a pattern to her madness. For example, whenever I was alone with Xiao Lanqing, she would definitely have an episode, and right now, before I could say anything more, Jiang Wan bit her lip tightly, and big tears fell, making Xiao Lanqing feel very sorry for her. "Sister-in-law, don't blame brother. It's all my fault. I shouldn't be ill. It's all my fault." As she said that, she suddenly slapped herself hard. She used a lot of force, and soon 5 red finger marks appeared. Xiao Lanqing's face immediately darkened. And I was also stunned for 2 seconds. This trick of retreating to advance and playing the pitiful card, she really succeeded every time she used it. "Tan Shu, I've already explained. What else do you want?" Xiao Lanqing said unhappily while explaining. "Does it hurt?" I interrupted him softly and looked up at Jiang Wan. A trace of confusion flashed in Jiang Wan's eyes. I bent down, opened the cabinet, took out the first aid kit from inside, and placed it on the coffee table. My voice was calm. "There's wound medicine in here. Let Lanqing apply it to you, okay, sister-in-law?" I didn't mean, I smiled, but the smile didn't reach my eyes. "I understand. You're just siblings. Even if you sleep in the same bed, you won't cross the line." Xiao Lanqing frowned, opened, and closed his lips to explain, but I gave him a reassuring look. "Anyway, I'm leaving Jing City in half a month. Even if they really end up in bed together in the future, it has nothing to do with me, too." I closed my computer and just returned to the study. Xiao Lanqing followed me in. He looked at me, hesitating to speak. I looked up and smiled. "Do you have something to say?" He habitually wanted to hug me into his arms. I subtly avoided his hand, walked to the desk, and put the computer down. His movement froze in midair, and finally he could only withdraw his hand reluctantly. "Shu, my feelings for Jiang Wan are just those of a brother for a sister. She was doted on by me since she was a child. Later, the Xie family needed to make an alliance through marriage, so we had to let Jiang Wan marry into the Duan family. The eldest son of the Duan family treated her badly and was cruel and violent. It was a miracle that she survived. Now that she's like this, I feel responsible. I just want her to have a happy rest of her life." His tone was full of regret, and he was trying to make me understand him. My palm unconsciously tightened, and I sneered in my heart. When Jiang Wan first returned to Jing City, I treated her even better than Xiao Lanqing. I was willing to give her anything she wanted. I really regarded her as my sister and loved her. But she shouldn't have crossed the line again and again. She climbed into Xiao Lanqing's bed wearing only thin clothes at night and slept with him. In my previous life, she even drugged Xiao Lanqing, had an intimate relationship with him, and sent photos of them in bed to challenge my bottom line. She wanted to see me go crazy, see me break down, and make Xiao Lanqing hate me. I went to Xiao Lanqing and asked him to drive Jiang Wan away, but he still said, "One just lacks a sense of security." After all, we didn't go that far. These 2 sentences completely broke me down. I resented them and exposed all the photos. If I couldn't be happy, then no one else should either. But Xiao Lanqing took advantage of the fact that I was an orphan girl with no one to back me up. He turned the tables on me. He said that I failed to win his love. He accused me of slandering his stepsister, sued me in court, and I was sentenced to 3 years in prison. Eventually, I was humiliated to death by the prison warden. "Shu, you can understand me, right?" Xiao Lanqing looked at me seriously. I nodded. He seemed to let out a sigh of relief. "Then I'll accompany you to try on the wedding dress tomorrow." I just smiled. I neither agreed nor refused. 3. Xiao Lanqing wanted to sleep with me to ease the relationship between us. I refused him with the excuse that I was not feeling well because of my period. He opened and closed his lips, knowing that I was lying to him. He didn't say anything in the end. He gave me a complicated look in his eyes, and then said to himself as if comforting himself, "It will be better after we get married." After that, he walked out of the study. In fact, if Jiangwan didn't exist between Xiao Lanqing and me, maybe we could really grow old together. Xiao Lanqing and I were childhood sweethearts. When I got into trouble when we were young, he would take the blame for me. When I was bullied, he would roll up his sleeves and fight with others without hesitation. I was the school beauty who ranked first in the grade, and he was the school bully who always ranked second. In fact, I knew that he could have beaten me. There was always a gap of 0.5 points between us every time. Once I was so angry that I went to argue with him. He just smiled and touched my head. "It's just the first place. I want Shu to always be the first. I just want Shu to know that Shu can just keep moving forward. I, the young master, will always stand behind Shu and protect Shu." In the second year of senior high school, my parents died in a car accident. My grandmother was the only one left in my family, and she lived in Hong Kong City. I had to move back from Jing City. I still clearly remember that the young man closely followed behind me, holding my hand and wanting to go with me. It was the first time I saw him with red eyes, tears streaming down his face, crying so miserably, just like a child. I knew what he was afraid of. He was afraid that once I left, I would never return to Jing City, and he was even more afraid that we would become strangers. But I said, "It's more than 2,000 kilometers from Jing City to Hong Kong City. The flight only takes at most 3 hours. The young master Xia can't be so poor that he can't even afford a plane ticket, right?" With this joke, Xiao Lanqing would come to find me every holiday, and he wouldn't even let go of the weekend time. You see, the sincerity of a young man is burning hot. When he loved me, he could overcome all difficulties. But in the end, the story ended badly. Jiangwan was brought to the Xia family in the third year of senior high school. At first, Xiao Lanqing always complained to me about this stepsister. He always felt that Jiangwan had taken away his father's love. It was me who mediated between them little by little to gradually ease their relationship. But I never expected that in the end, this would become a sword stabbing at myself. At that time, Xiao Lanqing once said, "I don't care about Jiangwan at all. I only have Shu in my heart. Shu is always the most important." But later, Shu was killed by him with his own hands. The promises made in youth are ultimately too light. For, the next day, Xiao Lanqing probably felt guilty, so he drove to Beixiang in the early morning and bought the steamed buns from the restaurant I liked the most. But before I got up, Jiangwan had eaten them all, or she accidentally knocked them over. It was obvious to everyone that Jiangwan did it on purpose, but Xiao Lanqing turned a blind eye. When I came out of the bedroom, Xiao Lanqing's well-defined fingers were holding a tissue to wipe the milk stains from the corner of Jiangwan's mouth. His movements were intimate and skillful. There was no sense of boundaries at all. "Sister-in-law, Jiangwan saw me first." Xiao Lanqing had his back to me. When he heard this, his fingertips froze slightly. Finally, seeing that I didn't say anything, he pulled out a chair and sat down on his own. He wanted to explain. "Just now Jiangwan timidly poured me a glass of milk and handed it to me. Sister-in-law, don't be angry with brother because of me. My hands were all greasy just now, so brother helped me wipe my mouth." As she said that, she pushed the milk cup towards me again. There were oil stains from the buns on the cup. I subconsciously frowned. "You drink it yourself." As soon as the last syllable fell, Jiangwan's hands began to tremble slightly, and her eyes were filled with tears. On the verge of falling, she bit her lip tightly and maintained the same posture. Xiao Lanqing's eyes turned a little colder, and he said in a reproachful tone, "Shu, Wan has already given you a way out. Can't you just accept it? Why do you have to make things difficult for her?" Suddenly, I twitched the corners of my mouth and looked at him with a half-smile. "Xiao Lanqing, I'm allergic to milk. Have you forgotten?" Xiao Lanqing was stunned in confusion, opened and closed his lips, and finally fell silent. He didn't dare to look at me and avoided my gaze. A trace of guilt flashed in the bottom of his eyes. If it were the previous Xiao Lanqing, he would never have forgotten. He remembered what I was allergic to and what I couldn't eat even better than I did. "Xiao Lanqing, have you also realized that the balance in your heart no longer favors me?" 5. I stood up and left, and the chair made a slight noise. Jiangwan seemed to be frightened by my movement. "Ah," she let out a cry of surprise. She didn't hold the cup in her hand firmly and it fell to the ground. Suddenly, the glass shattered everywhere, and she stumbled. She fell to the ground, allowing the broken glass to pierce into her palm. Sobs could be faintly heard. The corner of my mouth twitched involuntarily. For a moment, Xia Lanqing suddenly pushed me aside. I didn't react in time, and my lower back hit the sharp corner of the wine cabinet next to me heavily. I let out a muffled groan in pain and frowned tightly. Xia Lanqing anxiously knelt down on one knee, bent over to check Jiang Wan's injury, and asked worriedly, "Does it hurt?" Her eyes were red, and tears fell involuntarily. She shook her head. Her gaze was on me from time to time. When Xia Lanqing looked at her, she quickly avoided his gaze and lowered her eyes. "It wasn't sister-in-law who pushed me, brother. Don't blame her." When I heard this, I was so angry that I laughed. Just as Xia Lanqing looked at me with a cold face, my already dead heart actually twitched with pain. From beginning to end, I didn't even touch Jiang Wan at all. "Xia Lanqing, you also think I pushed her? Apologize," I sneered. "If you want me to apologize, wait until I'm dead." Xia Lanqing looked at me through gritted teeth. Just as he was about to argue with me, Jiang Wan cried even more violently. She carefully tugged at Xia Lanqing's arm. "Brother, don't quarrel with sister-in-law. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have come back. I didn't stand firm just now. I don't blame sister-in-law, brother." Xia Lanqing gently reached out to soothe Jiang Wan's emotions with pity. "I'll take you to the hospital." Jiang Wan sniffled and nodded. When she was picked up by Xia Lanqing, she wrapped her hands around his neck and buried her face in his arms. When Xia Lanqing passed by me, his eyes were full of disappointment. "Think about it carefully by yourself." The moment the door was slammed shut, I looked at the mess on the floor and couldn't help but chuckle. A self-deprecating laugh. Xia Lanqing seems to have forgotten. Today he said he would accompany me to try on the wedding dress. Fortunately, I didn't expect it. 10 days before reporting to the Research Institute in Hong Kong City, the person in charge of the Research Institute arranged my itinerary for me, and I began to take stock of the property under my name over the years. This villa was given to me by Grandma Xia as a bridal chamber. The decoration of the house was personally designed by Xia Lanqing and me. From the overall design structure to every brick and tile, it was filled with our memories. We even decorated the baby room. Xia Lanqing liked girls, so he turned the room into a princess castle. Beautiful and dreamy, but in the end, the baby crib never came in. Jiang Wan occupied the room first. When I finished packing and put the house up for sale, it was already dark. Several messages popped up on my WeChat. They were sent by Jiang Wan. She was wearing the wedding dress that I had commissioned someone to design. Jiang Wan was much thinner than me, and it was obvious that the chest part had been modified. After I refuted Xia Lanqing's face that day and we parted unhappily, we almost didn't talk to each other. He refused to bow his head, and I refused to give in. Today he took Jiang Wan to try on the wedding dress. It's really ridiculous. Does he want to force me to break my spirit and beg for peace? In my previous life, I would have started to break down by now. "Jiang Wan, sister-in-law, brother, and I came to get the wedding dress for you." I didn't reply. I just took a screenshot and then exited the chat window with her. At the same time, the big shot in Hong Kong City also sent me a message. "The weather in Hong Kong City has turned cooler recently." I was a bit taken aback, but I still replied with a "okay." Duan Jingxi and I are neighbors. He is 4 years older than me. Grandma regards him as her own grandson. When I first arrived in Hong Kong City, he helped me a lot. In my previous life, after I graduated from Peking University, he personally came to Peking University to invite me to join their Science and Technology Research Institute, but I refused. I was willing to stay in the Xie family and start from the bottom. For a full 3 years, I still couldn't get involved in the research projects of the Xie family. Duan Jingxi came to me several times and patiently said to me, "With your abilities, there's no need to waste your time here. Tan Shu, I can't judge your relationship with Xia Lanqing, but I want to tell you that the right person will stand by your future." He admired my abilities and was unwilling to see me buried like this. But at that time, I firmly believed that love was more important than everything, including my future. In the end, I lost everything. Later, Duan Jingxi stopped coming to me. Maybe he was disappointed. Fortunately, it's not too late in this life. Duan Jingxi, waiting for you. 7. When Xia Lanqing came back, it was already late at night. He seemed to have drunk some wine, carrying a faint smell of alcohol, and there was a blush on his face. When I was sitting on the sofa discussing the equity transfer agreement of the Xia family with others, he happened to come over. Before he could see clearly, I had already closed my computer. Didn't Jiang Wan come back? I looked towards the entrance. I was quite surprised. I thought Xia Lanqing and Jiang Wan were inseparable, to be honest. Xiao Lanqing's face is really attractive. When Jiangwan first arrived at the company, she squeezed out the secretary who was originally by his side. It was only when that secretary came to me crying that I knew. The secretary also had some feelings for Xiao Lanqing. The signs had been there for a while, but Jiangwan nipped it in the bud. The sense of a mistress towards another mistress is just accurate. Xiao Lanqing looked at me pitifully. Shu, why do you have to make things difficult for Wan? I don't care about the thing that you pushed her that day. And Wan has also forgiven you. She is my only sister, and I don't want her to get hurt, so you choose to wrong me, right? I said calmly. Xiao Lanqing pursed his lips and didn't speak, because he knew that no matter what happened, I would always stand by his side. We had the friendship of being childhood sweethearts and have long become an inalienable part of each other. We were destined to be together. But he forgot that love will be gradually worn away. Xiao Lanqing, one love can't be given to two people. If you choose me, then I hope you keep a distance from Jiangwan. If you choose Jiangwan, then we won't hold the wedding. After these words fell, Xiao Lanqing noticed the seriousness in my eyes. He quickly grabbed my hand and said helplessly, Shu, I only love you. I loved you in the past, I love you now, and I will love you in the future. Wan and I are always siblings. I have no romantic feelings for her at all. I'm just feeling guilty, because I didn't have the ability to prevent her from suffering so much. His eyes turned red. Seeing that I didn't speak for a long time, he quickly stuffed the wedding dress gift bag he brought back into my arms. Shu, you can't leave me. My eyes turned cold, and I slowly pulled my hand out of his palm. The current Xiao Lanqing is just like this modified wedding dress, dirty and rotten, in my previous life. That feeling of guilt cost me my life. These grievances always have to be repaid. Xiao Lanqing, I'll take it that you've chosen me. Hearing my words, Xiao Lanqing, who was slightly drunk, smiled at me with a curved smile. For a moment, I seemed to see the 18-year-old young man. Yeah, I love Shu the most. 8. There were only 5 days left before going to Hong Kong City. The funds from the sold equity of the Xia family also arrived in the account. Xiao Lanqing had been busy with the wedding matters these days and supervised the work in person. It seemed that he was determined to prove his innocence with Jiangwan to me. He deliberately drew a line with her. For example, when Jiangwan was ill, he would call the family doctor. When she couldn't fall asleep, he would ask the nanny to give her soothing soup instead of directly coaxing her and sleeping with her. You see, it's actually a very simple thing to clearly distinguish between them. But he chose to wrong me again and again. When I just came out of the study, Xiao Lanqing was sitting cross-legged by the coffee table, writing the invitation cards with great concentration. Our wedding was also going to be held half a month later. When he saw me approaching, he showed it to me with a smile. A trace of surprise flashed in my eyes. My fingers rubbed the invitation card, and then the corners of my mouth twitched into a bitter smile. I never expected that. The roles of Xiao Lanqing and I would be reversed. I still remember that in my previous life, I happily showed it to Xiao Lanqing, looking forward to his reaction. He just took a perfunctory look, said, "Stop making trouble," and then took the car keys in a hurry and went out. The smile froze on my face, and I couldn't react for a long time. That day, I sat on the sofa until the night, but I didn't wait for Xiao Lanqing to come back. Instead, I waited for the news that made me break down and despair. Jiangwan had slept with him. Shu, is it not well written? He looked at me. I shook my head. It's quite good. After getting my answer, Xiao Lanqing smiled with satisfaction again, and then talked about the wedding process on his own. I sat on the sofa, a bit distracted, until he asked me, Shu, let's use white roses for the flowers. What do you think? At first, I didn't come back to my senses. He called me again, Shu. Then I casually responded and met his gaze. Huh. Xiao Lanqing's expression was obviously a bit stiff. After hesitating for a while, a trace of loneliness flashed in his eyes. Shu, you seem to have changed. I asked calmly. Have I? He opened his mouth, hesitated to speak, gave me a suspicious look, and finally said nothing. Just as he put the invitation card back, his phone rang inopportune. It was from Jiangwan. Rarely did Xiao Lanqing not answer it immediately, but his restless expression had already betrayed him. The ringtone stopped and rang again, and then stopped and rang again, very urgently. He still didn't answer, but just clenched his fists. I sneered in my heart. Didn't Xiao Lanqing realize that the more he restrained and endured, the more he seemed to be trying to cover up something? I reminded him, answer it. What if Jiangwan tries to commit suicide again? One won't do that, although he said so. Xiao Lanqing only hesitated for a second before answering the phone. He put it on speakerphone. Jiang Wan's exploratory and pitiful voice came from the other side. Brother, can you come and accompany me? I know sister-in-law doesn't like me, but I really can't fall asleep tonight. As soon as I close my eyes, I think of everything I experienced in the Duan family, and I remember the eldest son of the Duan family whipping me. Her voice became weaker and weaker, and there was a faint nasal sound. Xiao Lanqing tightened his grip on the phone a bit and glanced at me inadvertently. Jiang Wan sniffled and said again, sorry, brother, I crossed the line. I shouldn't have disturbed you and sister-in-law. Xiao Lanqing thought for a while. Just as he was about to speak, I spoke first. You can go if you want. After all, you only have this one sister. He was suddenly taken aback. Shoo, even Jiang Wan's crying on the other side stopped for a few seconds. There was a bit of confusion in Xiao Lanqing's eyes. Shoo, you weren't like this before. Yeah, in the past. I would have made a huge scene, not to mention always pushing Xiao Lanqing towards Jiang Wan, but that was just in the past. I sneered in my heart, but didn't show it on my face. The corners of my lips lifted slightly. If I asked you to stay and not go to Jiang Wan, would you listen to me? He pursed his lips. Finally, he made a choice. Shoo, this is the last time. You see, he has already made a choice, yet he still deludes himself into thinking that he can be a good person in my eyes. 9. After Xiao Lanqing started the car, the feeling of unease in his heart surged up again. He clearly remembered the first time. It was when he woke up in the same bed as Jiang Wan and Tan Shu opened the door and bumped into them, and then silently closed the door for them, that day. He wanted to explain, but Tan Shu seemed not to care at all. Later, every time there was a conflict between him and Jiang Wan and he took Jiang Wan's side, facing Tan Shu's indifferent tone, that feeling of panic would always creep up to his heart from time to time, trying to engulf him. He always felt that Tan Shu was going to leave him, but when he thought about it carefully, how could it be possible? Without him, Tan Shu would have nothing. Her parents died in a car accident. And the only grandmother she had also left her when she was in university. Now in this world, he was her last relative and support. Thinking of this, he suppressed the uneasiness in his heart and rushed to the old house. When Jiang Wan saw him, she threw herself into his arms at once. Her eyes were red, and it was obvious that she had cried a lot. What she murmured was all about worrying that he would abandon her. The more she talked, the more tears fell, and she couldn't stop them. He soothed Jiang Wan with some pity, recalling the day when Jiang Wan returned to the Xie family. There were whip marks and scars all over her body, and there were also scars on her chest burned by cigarettes. She was skinny and her face was pale. The eldest son of the Duan family in Hong Kong City was resolute and his methods were cruel. He knew that, but back then, the Xie family was in a precarious situation due to the economic crisis. And they had no choice but to seek the Duan family as a backer. Jiang Wan was the only victim of that crisis. At that time, he didn't have the ability and could only watch Jiang Wan marry into the Duan family with red eyes. When he learned that Jiang Wan had lived a life worse than that of an animal in that year, he was awakened by nightmares every night, and his guilt towards her became even deeper. Even though he knew that he was wronging Tan Shu, he still chose Jiang Wan. Because he knew that Tan Shu would understand him, Xiao Lanqing sent Jiang Wan back to her room and still soothed her to sleep as usual. There were still dried tears at the corners of her eyes. With red eyes, she carefully tugged at the corner of his clothes. Brother, can you stay with me and sleep? She asked softly, as if walking on thin ice. Jiang Wan couldn't be unaware of his deliberate alienation these days. Originally, he wanted to refuse. He had promised Tan Shu that he would keep a distance from Jiang Wan. Although they were siblings, they didn't have a blood relationship after all. But when he saw her looking at him with tears in her eyes, her body thin and trembling slightly, Xiao Lanqing softened his heart. He nodded. This was the last time. After marrying Tan Shu, he must never do this again. 10. The time to fly to Hong Kong City was getting closer and closer. The buyer of the house had also been found, after negotiating the price. The transfer of ownership could be carried out. Xiao Lanqing probably did something to let me down again. He ordered a bunch of fresh roses early in the morning and also arranged the breakfast. When I saw the things, I couldn't help but smile. As expected, Jiang Wan also posted a new update on her WeChat moments at this time. Brother is the best to me. The accompanying picture was a live photo. She was holding a bunch of roses and smiling brightly at the camera. Also in the picture was half of Xiao Lanqing's fair wrist. He was holding a bowl of porridge and seemed to be about to feed Jiang Wan. Several mutual friends were cheering for their brother-sister relationship, and I also silently gave it a thumbs up. I thought Jiang Wan would make a big scene yesterday. It seemed that I overestimated her. Jiangwan soon sent me a private message, sister-in-law. Do you think the flowers I picked for brother are beautiful? I still didn't reply. But this time she was like a cornered dog and continued, sister-in-law, you really should thank me. If it weren't for me saying that we can't favor one over the other and should also send flowers to sister-in-law, brother would have forgotten about you. Brother slept with me again yesterday. You won't be angry, will you, sister-in-law? I sneered with the corners of my lips curled up. I knew that Jiangwan wanted to provoke me and then act like the vulnerable White Lotus as before, unfortunately. This time her calculations failed. After taking a screenshot of the content of the chat window, I sent it to Xia Lanqing together with the words that Jiangwan had used to provoke me before, including some intimate photos of them in bed. Before he could reply, I blocked both him and Jiangwan. Now I'm glad that I didn't get the marriage certificate with Xia Lanqing in advance. 11. When Xia Lanqing rushed back in a hurry. I had just confirmed the itinerary for the day after tomorrow with Duan Jingxi. He planned to first introduce me to the colleagues in the research institute and arranged a welcome banquet. I was sitting on the sofa. When I just looked up and met Xia Lanqing's gaze, he quickly walked in front of me and almost stumbled and fell. Before I could say anything, his long arm reached out and hugged me tightly into his arms. His whole face was buried in my shoulder and neck. His body trembled slightly. Shoo. I thought you really didn't want me anymore. My movement froze in midair, and I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Xia Lanqing's neck stiffened, and he slowly let go of me. Shoo, are you angry? I really didn't know that Juan sent you so many unintelligible messages behind my back. I'm really innocent with her. I didn't know about those photos she took. He quickly explained, staring at me. Of course, I knew that these photos were synthesized by Jiangwan with the help of others, but so what? It was true that Jiangwan had fallen in love with Xia Lanqing. It was true that he wronged me again and again for Jiangwan. In my previous life, he was afraid that Jiangwan's condition would worsen because of my exposure, and finally he put the blame on me and sent me to prison. This was also true. Seeing that I didn't speak for a long time, Xia Lanqing asked me cautiously, Shoo, don't you believe me? Can I believe you? I asked with a smile, but the smile didn't reach my eyes. He eagerly held my hand. Of course, I will never lie to you. You have always been the only one in my heart. But why, if he loved me, did he choose to let me die? Sometimes I really want to go back and ask Xia Lanqing in my previous life if he was awakened by nightmares in the middle of the night. Did he ever feel the slightest bit of regret for killing me? Shoo. I won't betray you. Never, Xia Lanqing still said firmly, and the affection in his eyes couldn't be faked. I didn't move, only feeling it was ironic. But forget it, just bear with it a little longer. It's going to end. 12. Duan Jingxi sent a message. There are still 4 hours until boarding. Are you ready? After leaving Jing City this time, I probably won't come back again. The day before yesterday, after Xia Lanqing came back, he hardly went out, even when Jiangwan called him. He could pretend not to see it. In fact, his heart isn't completely blind, it's just that his guilt towards Jiangwan is too deep, so he chooses to ignore her somewhat clumsy acting skills. Seeing that I didn't reply, Duan Jingxi sent another message. Are you in any trouble? I slightly lifted my eyelids, looked at Xia Lanqing who was preparing dinner in the kitchen, and sent a message saying, no. After that, the next second, the social platform exploded. The topic, hashtag the true feelings of the Xia siblings in the wealthy family, their affection stronger than gold, became the most popular topic. When I clicked on it, it was a long surveillance video. Since I was reborn, I have installed surveillance cameras in the house, including the rooms of Jiangwan and Xia Lanqing in the old house. In these 3 months, it's clear how Jiangwan has been pushing her luck under the pretext of being siblings, how she has acted like a delicate white lotus, how she has begged Xia Lanqing to sleep with her by relying on her so-called depression, and how she has been provoking me, the legitimate partner, step by step. Duan Jingxi saw the trending topic soon. He used the official account of the Duan family to comment below, my eldest brother has been seriously ill for a long time, not to mention whipping anyone. He can hardly even stand up. Miss Jiang, you were brought in to bring good luck. You received 30 million yuan in pocket money every month until your hands were tired of taking it. After my eldest brother died, you even signed a divorce agreement amicably and were given a large share of the family property. Why are you now turning around and blaming others? As soon as he said these words, many friends of the Duan family in Hong Kong City also joined in to criticize Jiangwan. Although my relationship with Duan Jingxi wasn't too bad. He likes to be quiet and lives in the countryside, so he rarely told me about the Duan family. So in my previous life, I didn't even think about his relationship with the Duan family at all. At that time, I was also blinded by anger and couldn't sort out my thoughts clearly. It was only when Duan Jingxi sent me a message in this life that I suddenly realized it and asked him to find out about Jiang Wan. Then I learned that she had been lying all along. It's just that Jing City and Hong Kong City are far apart, and the Duan family really has great power, so with just a few words from Jiang Wan, Xia Lanqing believed her. 13. The public opinion was getting more and more intense. Xia Lanqing prepared a good dinner with all my favorite dishes. When he brought out the last dish, the braised pork fillet, his phone on the countertop rang at the same time. He frowned slightly and didn't rush to answer it, he just glanced at the screen and then at me. Jiang Wan's ringtone was recorded by herself. It was easy to tell that it wasn't Jiang Wan calling. The old house called me. I nodded and didn't make any extra movements. In the past, I would have thoughtfully answered the phone for Xia Lanqing and put it to his ear. But not long after Jiang Wan came back, when she called and Xia Lanqing was drunk, I answered the phone. She cried, her eyes swollen that night. And the next day Xia Lanqing suddenly called me and scolded me harshly. He asked me, "Why did you stimulate Wan with your words? Don't you know that Wan is ill? Your words can make her have the tendency to commit suicide. Tan Shu, can't you be a bit more kind-hearted?" Those words stunned me and even made me fall into self-doubt. It was only until Jiang Wan proudly told me, "I just made something up casually, saying that you called me redundant," and brother believed it. I went to Xia Lanqing to explain, and he just replied indifferently, "I see," but later. He changed the password of his phone and never let it out of his sight. 14. Xia Lanqing opened and closed his lips, as if he wanted me to answer the phone, but then he seemed to remember something. In the end, he remained silent. He had to first bring the dishes to the dining table, wipe his hands, and then answer the phone himself. As soon as he answered, the anxious voice of the housekeeper of the old house immediately came through. "Master Xia, something terrible has happened." Miss Jiang saw the trending topic on the internet, took a knife, and locked herself in the room. "The things in the room are being smashed around. Please come quickly. I'm worried that something will happen to Miss Jiang." I didn't look up at Xia Lanqing, but I could feel a burning gaze fixed on me. What trending topic? Just as the housekeeper was about to explain, the scream of a servant also came in. "There's blood. Blood is flowing out of Miss Jiang's room. Call the doctor quickly. Call 120. It was in a mess at the old house. The housekeeper seemed to put the phone aside and rushed to kick the door open. Xia Lanqing asked several questions in a row, but there was no response on the other side. He clenched his fist and smashed it heavily on the dining table. He violently tore off his apron. He hung up the phone and redialed Jiang Wan's number, but it was all busy signals. He cursed in a low voice. He took anxious steps towards the outside. When he was near the entrance, he finally remembered me, who was still sitting on the sofa. I looked up cooperatively. The emotions in Xia Lanqing's eyes were extremely complicated. He was always weighing, considering, and thinking about how far I could give in for him. He clearly couldn't let go of Jiang Wan in his heart, but he also couldn't bear to let me go. "Shu, I'll be back soon. Can you eat first?" "I will definitely be back tonight," Xia Lanqing said firmly. I just smiled faintly, being gentle and considerate. "Go ahead," he nodded and even looked back at me when he reached the door. It was as if he was very reluctant to leave. It's quite ironic. In my previous life, since Jiang Wan came back, he had never looked back for me, not even when I died. The sound of the car engine spread. Xia Lanqing left, and I had already packed my luggage. From now on, we'll go our separate ways and each find our own happiness. 15. Jiang Wan's attempt to commit suicide failed. In fact, she had never really tried to commit suicide, but her clumsy acting skills still made Xia Lanqing choose her. After Xia Lanqing read all the information on the social platform, he desperately suppressed his breathing, but the pain in his heart was like a sharp knife, mercilessly tearing his heart apart. Regret engulfed him completely like a huge monster. Jiang Wan wasn't ill, nor was she abused. She had been living better than anyone else. Many socialites in Hong Kong City had posted photos of them together. Jiang Wan could be seen at all kinds of high-class banquets. It was because she was unwilling to be a widow and was envious of the affection Xia Lanqing had for Tan Shu that she had the wrong thoughts and returned to Jing City. On every night when Xia Lanqing accompanied her to sleep, Jiang Wan would wake up in the middle of the night, leave marks on his body, and then take intimate photos and send them to Tan Shu. What's even more excessive is that, without his knowledge, she would arouse his desires and satisfy herself. The ridiculous thing is, Xia Lanqing claimed that he hadn't crossed the line with Jiang Wan, but which siblings would really be inseparable and even sleep in the same bed? What's more, they don't even have a blood relationship. Xiao Lanqing watched the video where he used the excuse of their brother-sister relationship to silence Tan Shu again and again, and made Tan Shu compromise again and again. When Jiang Wan deliberately framed Tan Shu for pushing her and he pushed Tan Shu aside without hesitation and blamed her in a high-sounding manner, he was shaking all over with pain and choked up so much that he couldn't speak. He desperately wanted to see Tan Shu. Jiang Wan begged him not to leave and begged him to help her one last time. After the Duan family found out that she had slandered the eldest son of the Duan family for abusing her, they used all means to sue her, demanding the return of the property, and even released all the evidence of her extramarital affairs. The eldest son of the Duan family turned a blind eye before out of pity for her as she had married far away and was a young girl, but they didn't know that she was so scheming. Xiao Lanqing didn't care about Jiang Wan anymore. When she knelt at his feet to please him, he kicked her in the chest. She directly spat out a mouthful of blood. 16. When Xiao Lanqing rushed to the villa, the bell of 12 o'clock was just ringing. He quickened his pace, wanting to see Tan Shu quickly. He would explain everything to Tan Shu. He would never abandon her for Jiang Wan again. The disappointed look in Tan Shu's eyes and her lonely back in the video were still vivid in his mind. He had never thought about how painful it would be for Tan Shu, who was left behind. When he walked towards Jiang Wan, the lights in the living room weren't turned off. The food on the dining table had all gone cold, but there were no signs of it being touched. Tan Shu wasn't in the bedroom or the study. Even Tan Shu's things had been packed up cleanly, leaving only the things prepared for their wedding, the invitation cards on the coffee table, the wedding dress that had been ignored and piled in the corner, the happy characters pasted all over the wall. He took out his phone to call and send messages to Tan Shu, but only then did he realize, after Tan Shu blocked him that day, she never unblocked him, she had never forgiven him. Instead, she had been waiting to be completely disappointed in him, waiting to completely withdraw from their relationship, waiting for the day when she could completely abandon him. When Xiao Lanqing realized that Tan Shu would never come back, his hands couldn't stop shaking. He moved his lips and smiled self-deprecatingly. Tears fell down in big drops. 17. It took a full half a month. When Xiao Lanqing heard the news that Tan Shu had long since flown to Hong Kong City, he drove in a hurry to the airport. To his annoyance, Jiang Wan also followed. She clung tightly to the corner of his clothes and refused to let him leave. She was just like a shrew. And the inquisitive gazes of the strangers around them were all on them. Jiang Wan didn't hold back at all and cried loudly, "Brother, you can't abandon me. You said you would protect me forever. I'm your sister. You can't treat me like this for the sake of Tan Shu." In the past half a month, she had resorted to her old tricks again, cutting her wrist and attempting to commit suicide by taking medicine. She wanted to force Xiao Lanqing to help her. She made herself look so embarrassed and haggard, but no matter how much she made a scene, Xiao Lanqing didn't stay for her anymore. Even when he heard the news of her suicide attempt, he said heartlessly, "If you want to die, do it somewhere far away." The boarding announcement was still going on. There was a chill between Xiao Lanqing's eyebrows. He disgustedly forced Jiang Wan's hand apart. "Jiang Wan, I didn't settle accounts with you for everything you did to Tan Shu before. You should consider yourself lucky. You'd better stay away from me now, or I won't let you have an easy time." Jiang Wan was stunned for 2 seconds. She didn't believe that Xiao Lanqing would really ignore her. She was his nominal sister and had married into a family in Hong Kong City for the Xia family. How could Xiao Lanqing discard her after she had served her purpose? "Xiao Lanqing, don't you understand yet? You and I are the closest people. Tan Shu doesn't love you anymore. All of this was calculated by her. She wants you and me to be ruined," she roared in a hoarse voice, on the verge of a breakdown. Xiao Lanqing's eyes immediately turned scarlet. He raised his hand and choked Jiang Wan's neck, warning through gritted teeth, "Shu won't stop loving me, even if it was all calculated by Shu. I'm willing to accept it." Hearing this, Jiang Wan twitched the corners of her mouth, and there was a strange smile on her pale face. "Xiao Lanqing, you're really pathetic." In the past, when Tan Shu loved him, he turned a blind eye. Now that Tan Shu doesn't love him anymore, he starts to regret it. It's all retribution. 18. As soon as Xiao Lanqing arrived in Hong Kong City, he was involved in a major car accident. He managed to save his life, but his legs were amputated, and he would have to spend the rest of his life in a wheelchair. After Jiang Wan heard this news, she tried every means to embezzle all the money and property of the Xia family. But just as she was leaving the country, the parents of the Xia family, who were abroad, rushed back overnight and stopped her. They also sued her in court, and she was sentenced to 10 years in prison. When I heard this news, my fingertips that were typing on the keyboard paused slightly, and then I threw myself back into my work. I just didn't expect that Xiao Lanqing would still come to find me. When I was leaving the research institute, he was sitting in a wheelchair, much thinner. With his eyes sunken in, there was nothing but darkness under his eyes. When he saw me, tears couldn't stop flowing, and his eyes were frighteningly red. Shoo. I didn't avoid him, nor did I want to reminisce about the past with him. The past was over for me. From now on, we could only be strangers. Just as I was passing by him, Xiao Lanqing choked up again and said, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to send you to prison before." I was stunned, stopped in my tracks, and unconsciously tightened my grip on my things. He was reborn too. In an instant, I seemed to be pulled back to that cold prison. I desperately shouted for help, but I was even more brutally abused by the prison warden. I was slapped in the face, whipped with a belt until my body was covered in injuries, and there were all kinds of disgusting ambiguous marks on my body. This went on for a whole year. I just wanted to temper your temper at that time. I didn't know you would be. When I found out that you were humiliated to death, I had nightmares every night. I didn't know that Jiangwan had bribed the prison warden. Shoo. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I took a deep breath. Xiao Lanqing had tears all over his face. He looked up at me with his pale face. Shoo, did you come back too? I didn't deny it, and there was no need to deny it anymore. When he knew that I intended to develop in Hong Kong City, he asked me cautiously. I laughed out loud. There's no need for that. If you have the ability, make up for the tan shoe in the previous life. 19. Later, I never saw Xiao Lanqing again. It was just one afternoon that I accidentally heard Duan Jingxi say, Xiao Lanqing had gone crazy and was sent to a mental hospital.